I've seen that already, working with students from 8 to 4 can get tough, but I know after 4 o'clock, you didn't go home. You went into, project education class, the Olivet back in the days, in old Cabrini Green, where you would have, after school programs and tutoring, and you've done that for many years. I remember being a individual participant. Then when I went to college, I came and tutored there for a year or two. So,
Absolutely.
what's what kind of said, all right, I'm just, you know, city schools already tough. 4 o'clock. Well, I'm going to go ahead now, help out with this whole tutoring program. So, what kind of got you, to do that, and what's been the impact on it?
So, so how that happened was, back in the 80s, the teachers had a strike, seemed like every year or every other year. It seems like they were always on strike. So this time was a little different in that the school system was running out of money and it got towards Christmas time and they ran out of money.
Mm.
So they didn't pay us. And I remember that day, that Friday, I'm visualizing it now in my head, and everybody was like, "So they're really not going to pay us?" Because they had threatened a couple of paychecks before that, but the city bailed them out or something. But this time was like the Friday before Christmas, and we didn't think everybody's going to be screwed. But sure enough, they didn't pay us. So it's Christmas break. So the teachers union decided to, well, you're not paying us. We worked a whole couple of weeks. They didn't pay us, and we worked, now you owe us 2 checks. So they decided not to go back to school. So Disney was a magnet school, and there was a few parents that were in Cabrini. Now, up to this point, I just heard of Cabrini. I grew up in Beverly out on the south side. So, Cabrini was not not unless it was on good times. It wasn't always shown in a good light.
Uh,
And so I was like, sure, because it's 2 degrees outside and they talking about picketing but if I had something to do, then I'd get an excuse for not picking it. So me and a few other friends that were teaching at Disney at the time, and one of them actually grew up in Cabrini, and that's how I went over there. So we were on strike for like 2 more weeks. We didn't go to school hardly at all in January that year, and so the parents liked the way we interacted with their kids. And so they said, yeah, we should have this program all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not a bad idea. And so that's how that kind of started. At that time, Jesse White was just the state rep. And so they knew Jesse White. We went over and spoke to him, and he showed us how to make a 501c3 and start a nonprofit and, ask for donations. And that's how Project Education was born. And Jesse White's been around forever. I mean, hey, he's 90 something, just retired from being Secretary of State. And I'm sure he could have probably been Secretary of State for life, kind of like Supreme Court, if he really wanted. And so that's how that started. Um, a lot of things grew out of that. So one of the things, we started out with a baseball program, and in the summer, the first couple of years, we did like just some little summer stuff because it wasn't really summer school because obviously they had no money. So only the eighth graders went to summer school, and the high school back in those days, the high school kids had to pay, to go to summer school, and most of them had to go to private school to make up classes. So it was tough. Um, so I preached this: go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. So now they kind of like me, so they go to college. And then they came right back because I neglected to figure out the part about, well, who's going to pay for this college? So, I won't say I was spoiled, but I was spoiled. And, my parents paid for me to go to college. Of course, in the late 70s, college wasn't as expensive as it is now.
sure.
And so, if I needed a book, I just told my mother and she gave me the money and I went and bought the book. Yeah, and I was kind of resourceful. I sell the books back. And I still have some of my college book. I'm kind of nerdy. I got a nerdy side. I still got my college books in my closet here. So some of the ones that had educational value, and so that kind of made me want to do a little bit more, like the tutor and stuff, and encourage them to take tougher classes, working on getting them scholarships. That time Montgomery Ward was down the street, and I was able to get them to give money. So like when somebody like a Tadero Pratt who played with Habib, he went off to college, and I guess the statute of limitations have run out, but with the NCAA. But if he needed some money because I don't know, just wanted a pizza party. So back in those days, you couldn't get extra money from anybody. There was no NIL agreements and all that. So that was part of what I saw was wrong. So the kids in Cabrini didn't necessarily not want to go to college. It was just that it was unaffordable and it was out of their grasp. And many of them were the first time going to college in the family. And so, that's how we did start the after school program that you came and helped us with.
Mm.
Appreciated that. Because now, just as a side note, and this is about education. So when you say you want tutors, everybody wants to tutor because their idea of tutoring is you're going to come get this little kid and you're going to read to them. And then they're going to do their timetables and you're going to make some flashcards and do it. But when you come to our tutoring and they bring their calculus and AP physics, that made it tough on the tutors. So I had to go out, and I still have to do that. I have to go out and find, luckily Cabrini is nestled in between DePaul and UIC and Loyola and Northwestern's campuses are, down the street here on, to the east of us. So I go out and I try to get people, college students or I actually have a couple professors that help, to help us with the kids so that they can have those, additional subjects. So now where they probably would have dropped those classes, they keep them because they get some help. And, since pandemic and I learned how to work, podcasts and stuff, now we can do it with them, online. So I got a funny story for you because I always like stories. So I get this text. I let the kids take a picture of the problem and send it to me. So during the pandemic, I get this, they were kind of doing hybrid. So I get this text about this algebra problem. So I do like I always do. I get the paper out, I write the answer down, show them how to do it, put some little notes on the side, here's where you do whatever. And I send it back. So then later on in the day, I'm thinking to myself, oh, wait a minute. You sent me that like at 9:30 this morning. Should he have been in school? So I text him back. I was like, so weren't you in school didn't go to school today? No, I went to school. I said, well, you sent me that math problem at 9:30. He said, yeah, I was the only one in the room to get that right. So I kind of knew his teacher. So I was like, oh my goodness. And she just laughed too. She said, all right, he just milked it too. She said he was like bragging, because it was one of those problems where I was having a little trouble with it. So that was hilarious. I just thought, oh, so now you're smart now. So you should be tutoring now. Make him tutor the class. So I think, and that would be point number 3 for you, Habib. I think the fact that when you get the kids that will try to figure out how to do things, no matter what, not give up, I think that's when you have them, and as you know, even at Bond, everybody, when it was cold, everybody goes into the lunchroom in the morning and the kids will be copying each other's homework. You know how that goes. And so like sometimes the teachers will come to me, well, I caught them copying the homework. I'm like, you know what? I really don't care. Let them copy the homework because at least that means they know they can't come to my room without their homework done. That's number 1. Okay. And number 2, they might actually learn something while they're copying that homework because it wasn't that they couldn't do it. They just didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, just leave it alone. I don't care if they copy their homework. They're never going to copy this test. So I think things like that is where teachers, I think those little things like that make the difference between a good teacher and just a regular teacher.